President of the Rochester. I'm the Vice President of the Rochester Regional Coalition Against Human Trafficking, and I am the Executive Director of the Stop Abuse Campaign, a national organization that prevents childhood trauma through public education and policy. On behalf of RRCAHT, I want to thank you for coming today. To start off this proclamation, I would like to introduce the President of the Rochester Regional Coalition Against Human Trafficking, Janelle Snow.
Welcome, everybody, and thank you for joining us today for our 7th annual Proclamation event. January is National Slavery and Human Trafficking Prevention Month, and specifically today, January 11th is recognized as National Human Trafficking Awareness Day to raise awareness of the persistent issue of human trafficking. As many of you know, human trafficking is our modern day slavery. It includes both sex trafficking and labor trafficking. Worldwide, children, women, and men are exploited through force, fraud, and coercion for the purpose of commercial sex, debt bondage, and involuntary labor. A common misconception is that trafficking is a foreign epidemic, but we must recognize that it exists within the United States, and yes, here in our own Rochester community. Through our efforts, RRCAHT brings momentum and awareness to this issue by educating, advocating, and networking with individuals and organizations. Local cases have been covered in the media. Most recently, in February 2022, Peter Kowit, a registered sex offender and former RIT professor, was sentenced to 15 years in prison for sex trafficking of a minor. USA Today quoted, "He supplied them with drugs, and he also obtained clients for them. They engaged in commercial sex acts with those clients." The Polaris Project's 2021 report lists the top 5 risk factors and/or vulnerabilities identified by victims as recent migration or relocation, mental or physical health concern, substance use concern, unstable housing, and being a runaway or homeless youth. Traffickers such as Peter Kowit use these vulnerabilities to prey on and recruit their victims. COVID showed us that the trafficking industry is highly adaptable. The Polaris Project reports, wherever there are vulnerable people in communities, there will be someone who finds a way to exploit them. During the lockdowns, online recruitment increased a significant 22%. Most notably, there was a 125% increase in reports of recruitment on Facebook and a 95% increase on Instagram. So you might be wondering about New York State as a whole. Shared Hope International, an organization that battles sex abuse, recently gave New York a grade F in its efforts to stop trafficking. This is down from a D in previous years. The Rochester Regional Coalition Against Human Trafficking calls out trafficking in persons as a global public health problem, a violation of basic human rights, and a crime against humanity. In response to the increased incidence of human trafficking reports within the greater Rochester community, RRCAHT was formed in 2013 as a coordinated response to the needs of trafficked victims. What started out with a couple nonprofits and individuals now includes many in the community, including Angels of Mercy, Bright Star Community, Church Women United, National Council of Jewish Women, Planned Parenthood and Restore, Sisters of St. Joseph, Stop Abuse Campaign, Worker Justice Center in New York, and Villa of Hope. In addition to these groups, many individuals give their uncompensated time to RRCAHT simply because they refuse to do nothing. We continue to develop connections in schools, law enforcement, businesses, nonprofits, and beyond. To put the words of our mission into action, we developed our Yes Here campaign to foster awareness through Monroe County, utilizing RTS to display our message inside of the buses, on display monitors, and by wrapping the bus stop shelters. RRCAHT is a leader in education and awareness, aiming to educate the community and increase visibility to the problem that is human trafficking in upstate New York. In 2019, we educated over 1,000 individuals in the community. Those efforts were most predominantly led by our previous past president, Dr. Celia McIntosh. We have pivoted through COVID to offer human trafficking training and education virtually, as well as in person. In January 2021, we offered a full-day human trafficking and social justice conference with experts around the nation, educating over 100 participants. We are proud to continue connecting individually with various groups, such as schools and universities, and even most recently, a trucking business. Additionally, we are proud of our CARE-PAC initiative and survivor funds. Our goal is to help victims by providing them with essentials like toiletries, quarters, snacks, and warm blankets. We organize community groups that collect supplies to assemble them in packs, and we distribute care packs to outreach organizations. Through our participation in the United Way Day of Caring in 2022, we were able to provide hundreds of care packs to Community Resource Collaborative, Pretrial Services, and Angel of Mercy. Our survivor funds go directly to agencies working with survivors to cover gaps that funding does not support. It is estimated that human trafficking earns a global profit of roughly $150 billion a year for traffickers, $99 billion of which comes from commercial sexual exploitation. It is the fastest growing and second largest criminal industry in the world. Trafficking victims share one essential experience: the loss of freedom. Despite this, the demand continues to grow and human trafficking continues to be under-recognized and underreported, and survivors continue to be under-supported. As Jamie Johnson, a lived experience expert and CEO of Sisters of the Streets, recently said, it's important today to not forget the survivors whose lives were lost too early in their healing journey because they felt unsupported, unconnected, judged, without resources, and because many were kicked out of places that were supposed to be safe for them. A bright star in our community that is supporting, connecting, and providing a safe place for healing is Bright Star Community. They help women survivors of sex trafficking, prostitution, abuse, and addiction to find healing, hope, and freedom. I would like to invite Sue Kirby, founder and CEO of Bright Star Community, to share some thoughts. Thanks, Sue.
Thank you so much. Good morning, everyone. I am Sue Kirby, and as Janelle said, I'm the founder and executive director of Bright Star Community. And we are building a community of homes in the Rochester and Monroe County area that are helping women survivors of sex trafficking, sexual exploitation, and addiction. And what we are doing to help these women, first of all, is working alongside with our members at RRCAHT to help raise awareness of what's happening right here in our own community. There's so many people that I meet that had no idea that this was going on right here. A lot of people believe that this is a third world country problem. This is not happening in our country, let alone our own city and county. Part of what we started with and what we continue to do is reaching out to the victims of sex trafficking that are still on the streets. We go out and do street outreach and let the women know that there is hope, that there are people that care, that they do matter. I think that's so important to let them know that we see them and they matter. We work with individual intervention, and one of the stories I love is our very first resident in our very first home in November of 2020 that we opened, called Lisa's House, was one of the women that I met out on the streets. And she is going to be our very first graduate of our program, which is a 2-year residential program where they're able to live rent-free while they receive all the services that they need to help them heal. So we're very excited to be celebrating our graduate at the end of this month on January 28th. We also recently have partnered with Project Haven, which is a continuum of care for the chronically homeless. And within Project Haven, we have been invited to work at a home that is the first of its kind in this area to focus specifically on the chronically homeless women trapped in the life of sexual exploitation and addiction. And this is really going to help us to reach women in a safe place where they feel a little more at ease to talk to us, and we may have a better chance of helping them get to a place where they really want help. So we're very excited about that. The doors were opened this Monday, so it's a very exciting time for us. And this is the first of its kind in our area. So we're excited to be a part of Project Haven. While the women are living in the Bright Star Community Residential Program, they receive physical, emotional, and spiritual support for 2 years and beyond. So it's not like once they graduate, we just say, okay, have a nice life, see you later. They are a sister for life, that's what we call them. And they also come back to help the new women coming in to give that hope and share their experience and strength with the women that are newly coming into the program. And through partnerships with mental health, substance abuse, and trauma therapy, with providers in the community, they're receiving all the services that they need. We also are working with the women to give them educational and vocational guidance to help them become self-sufficient when they do graduate from our program. And most importantly, we are reconnecting these women with their children. Many of them have lost custody of their children, have been in bad relationships with their families, and trust has been lost. So we're working with them to rebuild that bridge back to their families. So we are so excited for what's happening with Project Haven, with celebrating our first graduate and having our first home open for 2 years. We're looking forward to opening more homes around the community to help more women, because this is so needed. One of the biggest issues is housing, and a safe place for these women to really work on the work that they need to help them heal. So thank you so much. We are so honored to be a part of RRCAHT, and I'm honored to have been asked to speak today. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sue. We're so grateful for your relentless efforts and dedication to providing so much healing and such safe space within our community. And congratulations on your incredible work. We so appreciate you. So now I would like to introduce some public officials that have joined us today and will be speaking, beginning with City Council members Jose Payo and Lachey Harris, who will be presenting a proclamation from the City of Rochester. Thank you, Jose and Lachey.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having us and for coming on and being able to provide this proclamation from the city, because it is really a crisis that many do not know hits us home here in the city of Rochester. But I want to make sure that Councilmember Lachey has, says what she needs to say as well, and she's going to start us off with the proclamation.
Yeah, I'd like to start by saying thank you again, Rochester Regional Coalition Against Human Trafficking, for leading the efforts in our community in the fight against human trafficking. Actually, I just realized that my phone was ringing. Let me just turn it on silent. And I'll go ahead and start with our proclamation on behalf of City Council. And whereas human trafficking is modern day version of slavery, where people are trafficked and exploited every day, coerced into sex work, forced and tricked into unsafe labor, subjugated by those who trusted to help them. Today, every day, is a time to recognize their plight, to honor and serve the survivors, and to use our voices to uplifting the call to action. And whereas National Human Trafficking Awareness Day was first observed in 2011, when President Barack Obama signed the Presidential Proclamation of National Slavery and Human Trafficking Prevention Month, with the purpose of drawing attention to the atrocities faced by people trafficked across the globe. And whereas Rochester Regional Coalition Against Human Trafficking has courageously taken on the mission to eliminate human trafficking in our communities throughout our communities through education, advocacy, and networking with individuals and organizations. Through member organizations and service providers, the coalition cares for those affected by trafficking, connecting them with supportive staff who understands how this trauma has changed them and who work tirelessly to bring their lives back to normalcy. And
whereas Rochester Regional Coalition Against Human Trafficking has led the way in educating our community on how to identify the warning signs of human trafficking, how to report a situation when there is concern that danger is occurring, and how essential it is to educate ourselves to be aware of what's going on around us in order to avoid any threats. And whereas locally, tremendous efforts are underway to support those impacted by trafficking with the expansion of RRCAHT's speakers Bureau, where RRCAHT members provide human trafficking education at various community organizations and businesses upon request, along with the annual inaugural Human Trafficking and Social Justice Conference. We know the coalition is constantly advocating for policy and programs to benefit those who have experienced trafficking, and we will continue to support those efforts. Now, therefore, we, Mayor Malik D. Evans, Council President Miguel A. Melendez, Council Vice President Mary Lupian, Council members Mitch Gruber, Lachey D. Harris, who's with us today, Ms. Willie Lightfoot, Stanley Martin, Michael Patterson, Kim Smith, and myself, Councilmember Jose Pio of the City of Rochester, do hereby proclaim January 11th, 2023 to be a call to awareness for National Human Trafficking Awareness Day. Congratulations, and thank you so much for all the work you do.
Thank you so much for both of you being here today. We really appreciate that. So next, I would like to invite Assemblyman Brian Magtalo, presenting a proclamation.
Janelle, I'll have to get that proclamation to you. I got in from Albany late last night and I do not have it in front of me. Okay, is that okay?
Yes, that is a-okay.
And I apologize for that. Am I going to be able to ask a few questions as well about human trafficking? Am I allowed to do that in this?
We will have our roundtable event after this proclamation. So absolutely, we can.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
Thank
thank you. And to the city council members, thank you for bringing the proclamation forward today. It was good to hear and much needed. And as I picked up the town of Webster in Monroe County, I just want to know and understand all of this as we prepare the budget in Albany. I want to make sure that we look at funding to help prevent this and help move these things forward. So thank you for allowing me to be on this morning.
Yeah, thank you so much for being with us, and we really appreciate that and all of the support that you might be able to provide to us.
Absolutely.
Thank you. So now I will invite Bill Melee from the town of Brighton and to present their proclamation. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Janelle, and thank you, RRCAHT. I have been honored to participate in this event. Maybe since the first year you held it, and as was said earlier, human trafficking is something that occurs in all parts of our community, in all so many ways, whether it's rural, whether it's suburban, whether it's urban. And all of us together have an obligation to work collaboratively to try to address it. So I believe we did send you proclamation, and I will now read that. Whereas human trafficking is a modern form of slavery involving the use of force, fraud, or coercion to exploit people for labor, for domestic servitude, or for commercial sex acts. And whereas an estimated 26 million adults and children of all ages, races, and socioeconomic backgrounds are victimized in countries around the world, including the United States, and yes, here in our own community. Whereas an insidious, pervasive industry, human trafficking generates approximately $150 billion annually, with commercial sex exploitation making $99 billion, and forced economic exploitation, including domestic work and agriculture, making $51 billion. Whereas there is no evidence that traffickers are more likely to be of a particular race, nationality, gender, or sexual orientation. They may be family members, romantic partners, acquaintances, or strangers. Whereas the U.S. National Human Trafficking Hotline reported over 10,000 unique cases in 2021, and states that the majority of trafficking is in the commercial sex trade, which disproportionately impacts women and girls. Whereas the town of Brighton supports the efforts being made by law enforcement, advocacy organizations like RRCAHT, faith communities, and other activists, both locally and around the world, to prevent human trafficking and protect victims of trafficking. Now therefore be it proclaimed that I, William W. Maley, Brighton Town Supervisor, on behalf of the members of our Town Council, do hereby declare January 11, 2023 to be National Slavery and Human Trafficking Prevention Day in the town of Brighton, and use this opportunity to make all members of our community aware of the evils of human trafficking so that trafficking and slavery are stopped and that victims are given justice and freedom. The proclamation is signed this 11th day of January 2023. We will also be reading the proclamation at our town board meeting tonight. And again, I want to thank everybody that's a part of this effort, and looking forward to progress in this area in the years to come. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Bill, and we really appreciate all the support that you've provided over the years and making sure that today is something that you've attended for so many years. So
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thanks. All righty, and now we are going to move on to a video to share from Senator Jeremy Cooney, who presented us with a proclamation. Give us just a moment and we'll have that video playing for you.
On National Human Trafficking Awareness Day, I want to thank the Rochester Regional Coalition Against Human Trafficking for their tireless work and advocacy related to this important community issue. The coalition is dedicated to ending the cycle of abuse through education, advocacy, and networking with community partners and organizations. The atrocities of human trafficking are real and sadly exist in our own neighborhoods. We must work together, united and committed at the federal, state, and local levels to eliminate human trafficking. I stand in solidarity with the coalition and other community officials against the devaluing of countless innocent individuals. Human trafficking is a crime of complex nature. It can be difficult to detect and arrest the perpetrators. The coalition creates opportunities for the community members to put an end to trafficking by being knowledgeable and aware. We also cannot forget about the survivors of human trafficking. Once safe, the coalition helps lift the voices of survivors and offers them continued support. This holistic approach is what will allow us to one day say that we have rid our community of this injustice. I will continue to advocate for resources and legislation that will hinder trafficking and support survivors. Thank you again to the coalition for your invaluable work and your continued leadership in the fight to end human trafficking.
Thank you so much to Jeremy Cooney. And we want to thank the officials that have been with us today to present proclamations, as well as I see some of you as our virtual audience as well. So thank you to all of the officials that have been here today. We're really grateful for your support. So in closing, human trafficking exists because our societal structures allow it. Injustices such as sexism, classism, racism, and institutional dehumanization are foundational to human trafficking. As someone who has provided firsthand direct services in the community for over 10 years, I've witnessed the ways in which our societal structures have failed my young people, most predominantly in the lack of access to safe housing, and further the lack of access to necessary mental health and substance use disorder problems. We have to address these issues at the root, and we must work to eliminate the vulnerabilities to human trafficking. Today, January 11th, 2023, the Rochester Regional Coalition Against Human Trafficking recommits itself to eradicating human trafficking by continuing to increase awareness in our community, supporting organizations dedicated to helping victims of sex, labor, and child trafficking, and advocating for change through legislation. Today, we ask our community to pay attention and learn about these problems. Let's stop saying, no, not in my community. And instead, let's start saying, yes, here. So we'd like to take a moment to thank the media for covering this today. And we ask that they continue to do so and continue to invest efforts into further coverage. And we'd also like to thank all of our elected officials, coalition members, community members, and the countless individuals who have donated to advance our efforts. We really appreciate all the support that we have received. We're going to take a half-hour break. We never know how long this beginning part is going to take. So at 10 a.m., if you would please come back. We have a wonderful roundtable discussion on the topic of the K-12 sexuality education bill and just information surrounding that. We have wonderful experts. We would be so grateful for any amount of time that you can spend with us to learn a little bit more about this really important topic and some of the intersections with K-12 sexuality education and human trafficking. Thank you, everybody, for being here with us today.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much, Janelle and everyone.
Thank you.
Janelle, are you still there?
Sure am.
I talked to my staff for a second there. They did digitally send that to you, but we will send you a hard copy as well. Okay.
Wonderful. We
I
appreciate
apologize for that. Like I said, I got in late last night and
No worries. No
so I
worries.
will definitely try to be on at 10 o'clock.
We appreciate it.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Thank you, everyone.